when I'm antiquing or vintage shopping, thrifting, I sometimes come across clothing. And one of the garments that I discovered in the last few years is something that I love wearing and actually using: coveralls. Coveralls are something that are so practical, but I find also kind of stylish. Sometimes people say, oh, that's a great jumpsuit, which is a new term that I didn't know, a jumpsuit. But coveralls are what they really are, and I have a couple pairs here that are old. These are from the 1960s, these are from the 1970s, and when I got them, they were brand new. They were unused, they had their original tags on them. That's how I like buying these things, when they have their tags on them, when they haven't been used. I open them up, I wash them, I try them on, and then my little secret is that I actually get them altered. When I have them altered, they fit really well. They're comfortable, but they also look great, which for me, being an extremely vain person, when I'm at the Pottery studio in Brooklyn and I'm throwing and I'm wearing coveralls and I go out for lunch, you know, I look great covered in clay because the garment fits. So recently I found something new, old, but new. So look, that's it, it's original packaging. It is a Fruit of the Loom work jacket. And this is from the 1960s, I believe. So the way you're able to identify the actual exact date of Fruit of the Loom things are by the logo, because they changed over the years. And this logo with the ribbon indicates that it was made between 1958, I believe, and 63, somewhere in those dates. So let's open this up. This is what I do. I open it up, look at it. One of the things about buying vintage clothing, especially things that were made in the US, is the quality is so much higher. Fast fashion has really brought down the quality of clothes, even the quality of the cotton fibers that go into clothes. Jeans that were made 20 years ago are very different from jeans that are made today because of the actual cotton fibers. Jeans from 20 years ago will not break down as quickly as jeans that you buy today. And one of the things that I really love about buying something that was made in the 50s or the 60s is often they're really good quality. You can feel it not only in the fiber, but also in the stitching. So that's something that I love. Okay, now, the next thing I'm gonna do is try this on. I'm gonna try this on with you here. Look at the label. Vintage. This is a cotton work jacket. So what I do is I try on the new garment, and then I assess. From assessing this garment, I am seeing that what I would like to have done is the sleeves need to be shortened. So this is what it looks like now, but look what it'll look like when the sleeves are shortened to here. It just looks like it fits me. And these are the sort of things that I've learned over the years of wearing old things and new things, wearing things with long sleeves and realizing, oh, I don't like what this feels like. I also don't like what it looks like. And then taking the time to either alter a piece of clothing myself if I have access to a sewing machine, because I could do this, or if I don't have a sewing machine, because I don't have one in this apartment in New York, I take it to my local dry cleaner where there is a fantastic tailor working that can do all kinds of alterations. So I'm going to take this to the tailor at the dry cleaner. I'm going to try both of these on for you just to show you what I had done, because these were heavily altered by the tailor at the dry cleaner. If you know how to sew, altering your clothes is a fantastic skill to have, because you can get things like this fairly inexpensively, and then you can make them fit really beautifully on your own. These were the very first pair of coveralls that I found. and wore during the pandemic in my kitchen while I was doing all my renovating. So when these arrived, there were two things that needed to be altered. The arms, I was fine actually with the length of the arms. This is how long they were. The pant legs were really wide. They were super wide, like very big. And I asked the tailor to just narrow and taper the pants of the coverall. And then the second thing that was really different about these is that this waist was down here. Like this waist was actually over here and the crotch was like 6 inches lower. So when I was walking, it was just like wearing very baggy trousers, basically. And I wasn't sure if it was possible, but the tailor said, yeah, he could change that. He cut over here, took the waistband off, lifted up the trousers, and put the waist on my actual waist. So this waistband is sitting exactly where it should be sitting if this was made for me. This is like a very practical garment, but I love these coveralls so much because of how they fit. They fit perfectly and they just like, I actually feel comfortable in them. I ride my bike in them, I can move around in them, but they also really do cover my clothes. I'm wearing a thick pair of jeans under here, and I usually just wear a t-shirt when I'm wearing my coveralls. So that was the first pair. Really well worn, well used, well loved. Finding someone to do alterations that really knows what they're doing is kind of a game changer. So if this is something that you're interested in, having your clothes altered, maybe you buy things off the rack and they're too long or they're too baggy or they're too broad and you just need things altered, start small. Like I would suggest start with a sleeve alteration or hemming jeans, for example, and try somebody out. And if they do a good job, then you can work your way up. Maybe you'll buy a dress and the dress needs some minor alterations. That's just like, you really have to trust that they're not going to screw it up. And I have to say, with my experimenting, people have screwed things up before that are irreversible. I just don't go back. I chalk it up to learning and I move on. But now that I've found my guy, I am keeping him a secret and I'll never go anywhere else. This is the second pair of coveralls that I got. Okay, the second pair. I have seen these coveralls in photos like from the 1950s, factory workers wearing the same pattern, this herringbone pattern. I think it's like a very standard, and I've seen it in movies as well, standard cloth used for coveralls. So with these, the sleeves did have to be altered because they were way too long. So the sleeves were shortened slightly. The waist was also brought up on these, and the pants were tapered again. The pants being tapered are kind of a big thing with coveralls because usually they're so broad to accommodate like a wide variety of the person's actual trousers that the coveralls, you know, are loose. From a practical standpoint, I also don't think it's great for the trousers to be too wide. I think it's a hindrance when they're too wide. You're walking and they're brushing against each other every step that you take. So tapering the trousers, for me, is a really useful thing to do. Again, if you have a sewing machine and you know how to sew, this is not a difficult thing to do, to taper trousers. It's also not difficult to shorten the length of the sleeves. Coveralls, vintage coveralls, they're so well made. I think they're very stylish. They're a wonderful practical garment to wear when you're working, you're doing things in the house, or you're working outside and you know you're gonna get dirty. You know, let them get dirty. They just become really, I think, nicer with use and with age. My method of buying vintage and tweaking it to make it something you absolutely love.